Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, how are you? I think you are fine. I think you are enjoying the online class at your house. Today I will take a class inconsistent with the previous class I had taken, and the topic was transformation of sentence. Transformation of sentence based on structures, namely simple, complex and compound. And today's class would be the last part of my discussion, keeping a consistency with my previous classes. So today also the title of my class would be transformation of sentences. Transformation of sentences. So in my previous class I discussed different terms related to the transformation of sentences, namely simple, complex and compound. And I think you can recall the terms, you can remember the terms I discussed in my previous class, and the terms are finite verb, non-finite verb. Just let me write some of the terms. Finite verb, number one. What is finite verb? If you remember, a finite verb is a verb that is used according to or maintaining a certain tense, maintaining the subject and person of the sentence, and that is finite verb. Non-finite verb, number two. Non-finite verb, a verb that doesn't follow any certain tense and that doesn't follow the subject and person, a number of the subject in the sentence, and that is finite verb, non-finite verb. We also discussed phrase. What is phrase? I think you can remember it. A phrase is a collection of words having a certain meaning. A phrase in no way contains any finite verb or subject. We also discussed clause. Clause is a part of a long sentence that must have a subject and a finite verb, and it must express a complete meaning. That is a clause. And we also discussed two types of clauses, namely principal clause and subordinate clause. We gave the definition in my last class. We also discussed three kinds of sentences, the definition of three kinds of sentences, namely simple, complex and compound. And if I give the definition to just to remind you, simple. What is simple sentence? A simple sentence is a sentence that must contain, that must possess at least one principal clause, and there will be no other clauses in the sentence. So that sentence is called simple sentence. And what is complex sentence? A complex sentence is a sentence that must have at least one principal clause and a subordinate clause. That is complex sentence. And what is compound sentence? A compound sentence must have at least two principal clauses combined with coordinating conjunction, namely and, but or were. So these are the terms mostly related to the transformation of sentences based on structures, and I think now you are clear about the terms related to the transformation of sentences. Today in my class I will show you how these terms have been applied, have been executed, have been implemented into the sentence, into the practice. And today we will go to make clear, we will try to clear away the difficulties about how to transform from one kind of sentence to another, namely from simple to complex, complex to compound. So let's come to the practice. Today is our practice session. Okay, dear students, certainly you will keep pace with my discussion. Certainly you will must have your notebook with you so that you can write down the things I am going to discuss. Okay, so earning money in an honest way the man supported his family. So this is a sentence. So first you have to identify which sentence it is, whether it is simple, complex or compound, and we have to judge it, we have to identify it, keeping in view of the definition of the sentences. So if we analyze the sentence, we can see the sentence has two parts, namely earning money in an honest way, and another part is the man supported his family. Okay, now you have to identify what is the first part of the sentence. The first part of the sentence is, according to the terms we discussed in my previous classes, it is a phrase, because this part has a meaning and this part doesn't contain any finite verb, this part doesn't have any subject, only this part is a combination of some words, and this combination or this collection of words is called a phrase. This part is phrase, and the last part, the man supported his family. This part of the sentence contains a subject, the man. Here the man is subject, supported is a finite verb, because this verb follows a certain tense, namely past indefinite tense. So this part of the sentence is called a clause, and according to the definition of different clauses, it falls into the category of principal clause, because a principal clause starts with a subject and finite verb. So if we look into the sentence, we can see this sentence has only one principal clause, and other part that it contains is not a clause, phrase. So this sentence is a simple sentence, undoubtedly. So we have to transform it into complex one. So if we complex sentence, so if we transform this simple sentence into complex one, we have to take into our consideration that when we'll transform a simple sentence into a complex one, the complex sentence must contain at least one principal clause and a subordinate clause. So in the simple sentence we have already got a principal clause. So if we can transform this phrase into a subordinate clause, then we can easily transform this sentence into a complex one. So earning money in an honest way. So we have to transform this phrase into a subordinate clause. So we have to know first how a phrase can be transformed into a subordinate clause. If we want to make a subordinate clause, first we have to bring in a subordinating conjunction. So here, earning money in an honest way, depending on the meaning, we can here add a subordinating conjunction, namely as. This is the subordinate conjunction, and we have to bring in the subject, earning money in an honest way. Here the subject would be the man. The man is the subject of the principal clause, subject of the finite verb supported. So here we can use the same subject if you want to transform it into subordinate clause, earning money in an honest way. Here we have to use earning, this non-finite verb, as finite verb, and the verb earn, the subject of the verb earn here can be the same subject, the man. So as the man earning, this non-finite verb we have to use as a finite verb. That is to say, this verb must be used according to a particular tense, namely past indefinite tense. We will use the verb in the form of past indefinite tense. Earning, the man earned, as the man earned. In an honest way. Here the principal clause would be the same. There will be no change in the principal clause. So here we can use a pronoun instead of the noun the man. He supported his family. So the first one is a simple sentence. Here we have transformed it into a complex one. As the man earned in an honest way, as the man earned in an honest way, this is the subordinate clause. He supported his family, this is the principal clause. So you have noticed how we have transformed the simple sentence into a complex one. Now we will transform the same sentence, the simple one, into a compound one. How we can transform it? Notice here, compound. So according to the definition of a compound sentence must have two principal clauses. Compound sentence must possess two principal clauses, and that two clauses must be combined with the coordinating conjunction, namely and, but, or were, and this conjunction will be used depending on the meaning. So here, earning money in an honest way, this is the phrase we can transform it into a principal clause. How? Here, notice here, if we write here, principal clause start with the subject, the man Here the non-finite verb earn, we'll use this non-finite verb as a finite verb. The man earned money. Here we have mistaken money. The man earned money in an honest way. This is the principal clause, and we have already got another principal clause, namely the man supported his family. Now we will combine these two principal clause with a coordinating conjunction, namely and. Here we'll use and. Then he supported his family. So I think, dear students, you have noticed, here you have clearly can see how a simple sentence can be transformed into a complex one and at the same time a compound one. I will give you another example so that it can be cleared away to you how the examples have been used here to transform one sentence into another one. I will give you another example here. I will give you another example here. The student, having sweet scent and beauty, we love the road. So dear student, you will notice here this is another sentence, and in the sentence, if we analyze it, it has two parts. The first part of the sentence is having sweet scent and beauty. This is a phrase because this part doesn't have any finite verb. Here we can find a verb that is non-finite verb, having, and another part is we love the roads. This part is a clause and it is principal clause. So this sentence has only one principal clause. So this sentence is also a simple sentence. Now we will transform it into a complex one first. Complex sentence. So we will apply the same rule that we applied in my previous example. Having sweet scent and beauty, if we want to transform it into a complex one, first we have to bring in a subordinating conjunction. Here we will use the same conjunction that will signify region. That is to say, we will here use since. Then we will use subject. So here the non-finite verb is having. So we will use this non-finite verb, and the subject of this non-finite verb would be undoubtedly the roads according to the meaning. if you look into the meaning, the subject of the non-finite verb having, when we'll use it as a finite verb, you can find out its subject would be the roads. Since the roads, this is a subject, then we have to use this having non-finite verb as a finite verb. What is the finite verb of having? So we will use here in the present indefinite tense. So as the rose has is the finite verb of the non-finite verb having. Because this verb has been used as present indefinite tense, as since the rose has sweet scent and beauty. So this part is now a subordinate clause. It was in the previous sentence, in the simple sentence, it was the phrase, and now phrase has been transformed into a subordinate clause, and we have already got a principal clause. So the principal clause would be unchanged here. We'll use the same principal clause. We love the rose. So since the rose has sweet scent and beauty, we love the rose. We love the rose. Here the rose, instead of rose we can use here a pronoun. We love it. So this is now complex one. Now we will transform it into a compound one. Compound. So according to the definition of a compound sentence must have two principal clauses. So we have already got in the simple sentence a principal clause. So if we can make another principal clause out of the phrase, and if those two principal clauses were combined with a coordinating conjunction, then it would be easily transformed into a compound sentence. So here we will use this phrase to make a principal clause. So first we have to bring in that the subject, the rose has sweet scent and beauty. Here we will add a conjunction, coordinating conjunction, and that conjunction would be and according to the meaning. And we love it. So here in the compound sentence we have got two principal clauses, namely the first one is the rose has sweet scent and beauty. This is the first principal clause, and the second one is we love it, and these two clauses have been combined with and you can see, dear students, how a simple sentence can be transformed into a complex one and a compound one. And this is how I think if you follow this process, you can easily transform the sentences into simple, into complex and compound. Now I would like to give you another example to clear away the difficulties or the problems that we face to transform into one sentence into another one. I will give you another example. Here Ruplal collected his things and he went to the jungle. So this is a sentence, and if you look into the sentence and if you want to identify which sentence it is, you can clearly understand it is a compound sentence, because this sentence has two parts. The first part is Ruplal collected his things. This part is certainly a clothes, and it is a principal clothes. And the second part is he went to the jungle. This part is also a principal clause. So here we got two principal clauses, and these two principal clauses have been combined with a coordinating conjunction, namely and. So undoubtedly this sentence is a compound sentence. Now I would like to show you how this compound sentence can be transformed into a simple sentence and at the same time a complex sentence. Okay, the first simple one. So according to the definition of a simple sentence must have only one principal clause. So here I would like to transform the first principal clause into a phrase, and the second principal clause would be unchanged, would be the same. So if we can do this task, then the sentence can be transformed into a complex into a simple one easily. So look into the technique how we can transform it. Ruplal collected his things. So here we will give out, here we will omit the subject, and here the finite verb collecting is the finite verb, collect is the finite verb, will transform into a non-finite verb. So how we can transform it into a non-finite one? We will use it as a gerund, use it as present participle. So how? Collecting his things. So collecting his things, this is the part, and this part is not now a clause, it has been transformed into a phrase. And now we will use the second part, namely the principal clause as it was. It would be used, I will use here unchanged, we'll use a comma, then he went to the jungle. Here the subject he would be replaced with the noun Ruplal collecting his things. Ruplal went to the jungle. So if we look into the sentence, this is a simple sentence, because here we have got only one principal clause. In the compound sentence there are two principal clauses. Out of the two principal clauses, we have transformed one principal clause into a phrase, and the second principal clause have been used unchanged. So this is simple. Now we will transform it into a complex one. Complex. In the complex sentence we need a subordinate clause and a principal clause. So Ruplal collected his things. This principal clause will be transferred into subordinate one, and if you want to do this task, we have to add here a subordinating conjunction, namely we will use here when, then the subject, when Ruplal collected his things, comma, we will omit here the and, we'll remove this coordinating conjunction and instead in that place we will use a comma. He went to the jungle. So this is a complex sentence, and now you can see very clearly what is the technique I have used here to transform a compound sentence into a complex one and at the same time into a simple one. So we have to take into our consideration first the meaning, then we have to take into the consideration about the different terms related to it, related to the sentences. We have to certainly learn how to transform a phrase into a clause. Then we have to learn how to transform a principal clause into a subordinate clause, and at the same time how we can transform a subordinate clause into a principal one. So these are the techniques. If you can learn this technique, you can easily transform a simple one into complex one, and a complex one into a simple one, and a complex one into a compound one. So this is the technique. I think you will practice it at your home, and then you can easily learn how to transform one sentence into another one. Dear students, I think at your house you will practice it more, and then the problems will be cleared away to you. I think till then you will be very okay at your house. Thank you.